I am back once again, and I've been a little busy, been away from the YouTube channel for a while, and you'll see I got a nice new tablecloth here. But I was just going to do some updates. I've been trying to put together a couple of videos, but I had some issues. I've been trying to include more sample photos in all of the videos I've taken, and I've had some trouble because I developed some film wrong, and I have some color film I was going to send off to be developed, and I just haven't done so yet. But just to let you know, I was going to go over a little update right here and tell you a little bit of what I'm planning for the future. Some people probably think I'm running out of stuff to review, and I kind of am, but I have a few items right here. So the first one is a Nikon 50mm f1.4 rangefinder lens. I got this with a Nikon S. It was kind of dirty, and I cleaned it up, and I want to review it. I've shot a couple of rolls on it, and I wasn't very impressed with the results. I got a lot of images that seemed slightly out of focus, but I don't know if that was the lens, if it being dirty and me cleaning it somehow damaged it, or if it's just the nature of the lens. It's also possible I'm just kind of over-scrutinizing because I don't have a lot of sample images, but that's one I'm going to get to at some point in the not-too-distant future. I have another one I've mentioned before. This is the Nikon 105mm f2.5. This is a pretty interesting lens. I don't use it much on the rangefinders because it's so long. I don't think telephoto lenses work that well on rangefinders, and the 105 is kind of an odd focal length. It's a good portrait lens, but aside from that, there's not a lot you can do with it aside from maybe some sort of nature photography, and I don't really do that. I have kind of sampled this on a digital camera, and I was really impressed with the results, but I don't really have enough stuff to write up a review on this lens yet, and I haven't used it enough to really feel confident making any call on it whatsoever. Another one that you might remember because it's been featured in another video is the 35mm f1.8 lens. I actually have quite a few samples from this on color film, but I wanted to get a few more in black and white just to show you what it looks like. I might do another video about the SP as well. It's a pretty interesting camera and I really like it a lot. But this one might be the next one to come out just because I've had it for so long, and I do have a pretty decent selection of sample photos to go along with that one. Lastly is one of the more obscure ones. This is a Voigtlander color Scopar lens in Nikon S mount, which is kind of rare. They made a lot of these in the Leica M mount, but the Nikon S mount ones are fairly rare. I have the cap and everything. It's got a little lens hood that sticks up here, and there's a sort of plastic ring that goes around it that looks kind of dumb, but I found in use it's very practical because it just makes the lens bigger, and it's a lot easier to grab it and focus it, because without that ring it's very easy to grab the front of the camera and just kind of move the aperture and not focus it, because the aperture ring is pretty loose and they're right on the same kind of axis, so it's very easy to do that. I've shot some samples with this lens as well. I've got some decent black and white images, and I have a roll of at least one, maybe two rolls of color film I shot with this lens, but I just haven't gotten them developed yet. I do all my black and white developing at home, but I send all my color stuff off to be developed because I just don't really have the confidence to do it. And actually last time I developed some black and white photos about a week or two ago, and I think my developer went bad because I ended up getting two rolls that came out very poorly, and then I had a couple more that just came out blank. I don't know exactly what went wrong, but I think the developer was, it had gone bad because it had been sitting in there for a while. But this is another lens I'd like to review. This one will probably be coming up soon, probably right after the 35mm f1.8 Nikon lens. And when I get all this done, I'd actually like to do sort of a showdown type thing where I compare all the Nikon S mount 35mm lenses I have. That's going to be quite a big list at this point because I have 5 lenses from 3 different manufacturers, but it should be something kind of interesting just to compare all of them and get an idea of how different they are, what kind of characteristics they have, because surprisingly the characteristics vary quite a bit, especially in things like bokeh quality and like chromatic aberration and flare and things like that. They vary more than you might think, and there are some interesting little nuances. So that'll be something pretty interesting that's coming down the road, but that's still a little ways off. Another thing is this lens right here. This is sort of a Contax Nikon mount lens, but it was made in the Soviet Union. It is called a Helios 103, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, 103 right there it says. I couldn't, Helios is the name, and I was thinking it was either a 103 or 105. It's 103. So this is a 53mm f1.8 lens, so pretty comparable to a lot of 50mm lenses out there. A lot of them aren't true 50s, they're closer to like a 52mm or something. And I got this when I ordered this this cheap little adapter off eBay, and this is a sort of Nikon Contax S mount to Sony F mount adapter. And this lens came with it. It was kind of a free gift type thing. It even included the original cap. Not a terrible lens. I might do a little review on it. It's not great. It's not super sharp. It flares quite a bit, but if you want an effect lens, it is actually pretty interesting because it's fast and it is, it's not a terrible lens, but it is what it is. Another thing I'd like to do is use this little adapter more. So I believe this is actually made from an old Kiev camera, which is kind of a knockoff of a Contax. And I think somebody just took apart one of the old broken cameras and used this little lens mount piece and fitted it on a newer piece of metal that is a sort of Sony FE mount type mount. I don't know the term for it exactly. To use this as sort of a primitive adapter. When I got this, it seemed to work pretty well. After a while, you'll notice there are these sort of screw things on the side that just basically hold this the older Nikon lens mount in place. And the thing kind of came loose and it popped out, and these are just screwed in, but they sort of rounded off the ends of the screws, so you can't readjust it. So I had to kind of put it back in there with some heavy-duty glue type compound. And it holds pretty well, but I think it might be a tiny bit uneven if I look at it. And I also wasn't paying attention, and I put the lens mount in at a weird angle, so when you mount it on the camera, it's essentially upside down. So it gets a bit frustrating because you shoot with the lenses upside down, which isn't necessarily a big deal because they have markings pretty much the whole way around, but like the focusing scale is usually not visible. Another thing is it doesn't seem like the measurements aren't very exact, because I've noticed that it seems to throw off the minimum focusing distance. I've complained before that a lot of these lenses, the minimum focusing distance is something like 3 or 4, even 5 feet, and that I always find that kind of irritating, but this will generally push it out a little bit further. How much is hard to say because it does kind of, it varies depending on the focal length of the lens, it seems like. But that is something to keep in mind if you want to buy one of these. They are not the highest quality adapters. They're easy to find and they're cheap, but their quality is kind of suspect. There are better adapters out there. Voigtlander made one, but it was very expensive. Someone else is making them now, but they're hard to find and expensive. I would like to pick one up, and I maybe will someday, but I haven't seen many, and the ones I've seen have just been way too expensive. I'd also like to take this lens and mount it on the Sony and do some more digital shots for some of my comparisons. That would make things a lot easier for me, but I try to, when I do my reviews, keep it with film and the original camera and original lenses. Kind of everything is kind of period or as close to it as I can imagine, just so you get an authentic shooting experience. I don't know how many people are going to buy these old lenses and try to mount them on one of these adapters and put them on a Sony A7. I doubt it's a huge number of people, but then again, I don't think there's really huge numbers of people going out with old Nikon rangefinders and shooting film on them. So I think both of them are niches, but just kind of different niches. But that is something I think I'm going to do more in the future, because I've had a few people complain to me that they don't think there are enough sample images in a lot of the reviews I do. And I got to say, sometimes I think I have plenty. There's a decent variety of them that show different characteristics and stuff, like the bokeh and flare and whatnot, and other things of that nature, color versus black and white film. But I know there definitely have been a few where I only use black and white film, or I did not have a very big selection of images, so I'm going to try and work around that by using this adapter more and giving you some samples. It's hard to say. I think the sample images I get on the Sony A7 with this adapter will probably be a much higher resolution, and they'll definitely be a much higher resolution. I don't know how that will affect the quality of the lenses, because sometimes these old lenses, when you try to scale them up to modern stuff, they don't work too well. But from what I've seen, most of these lenses work pretty well on digital sensors. There aren't really any sort of chromatic aberration effects. There isn't really anything like, there isn't much moire or anything. I've seen a little bit here and there, not a lot. I've seen some color fringing here and there, but again, it's pretty rare, and it's usually restricted to very specific lenses. But that's just a little update right there, telling you a little bit about what I've been doing, because I have been pretty busy over the last couple weeks, so I haven't put out any reviews, but I'm still here, still collecting stuff, still trying to put together some reviews for the future. So this is just a little sample of what I'm going to try to put out over the next couple of months. I don't think I'm really going to have another video out for as far as Nikon lens reviews, especially with the rangefinders. I don't think I'll have another video out for at least 2 weeks, but I will try to do some other content. I think I'm going to do some more photo book reviews. I know those aren't always very popular. I've really only done one in the past where I talked about my own photo book, but I think I'm going to kind of expand and talk about some photo books I like and how they've inspired me. Just kind of talking about what I like about them. So look forward to that if you like that, and if not, well, sorry, because you're going to get it. So that's pretty much it for today. So tune in next time, and eventually I'll be back with some more cool Nikon stuff that people seem to like.